Yo guys, what is going on? It is Invin here, and today what I'm going to be bringing to you guys is my top tips for New World end game players in the update 1.2 and beyond. So these are going to be some things based around the brand new trade aptitude system and of course the brand new expertise and gypsum systems that we've seen, as well as generally things you should be doing at end game from this patch and going forward. Now these are going to be quite quick fire, so I'm going to try and keep it short and snappy but as informative as I can so that you guys can get some quick tips under your belt. And if there is any that you think I missed during this video, then please do be sure to drop it in the comments down below and let's share them among the community. Before we jump in, if you are new to the channel, please do make sure that you are dropping a subscribe on the channel today. I am trying to hit 12,500 subs before the end of the year, and we've got a couple of days left, so if you could help me do that, that would be absolutely amazing. And without further ado, let's jump into the first one here. This is going to be to make sure that you are utilizing all three of your houses and the trophies that are in them. So if you go into the K menu and go into the bio section, you guys will be able to see here, you know, I've got my name, etc. I'm kind of blocked, but I'm in Syndicate. You can see the purple background, kind of blocked by the camera, but Syndicate there. And you guys can see on the right side of this screen here that I have territory bonuses. Now this tells me in Everfall, and it will also tell me in each settlement, but obviously you want to check the ones where you've got houses. So for me right now, that is Everfall, Windswood, which has got the weaponsmithing temperament in, which is really, really good for me because I'm at 200 weaponsmithing. And then also I have one in Morningdale, which right now has only got Hale and Hearty going, but you know, it's better than nothing. So let's go back up to Everfall here and just have a look. You guys can see that we've got luck bonus, we've got gathering bonus, we've got fast travel discount, and we've got 4 active perks. This one's about to expire in a couple hours, but generally we're doing pretty good here. Now what you need to be doing is taking advantage of making sure firstly that you have 3 houses, whether this is 3 max price houses or 3 bottom tier houses, it doesn't really matter. I would certainly recommend trying to get the tier 4 or the most expensive house in the area where you want the most storage, because it does massively help getting those storage chests in. But other than that, if they're just going to be for trophies and fast traveling, it can be the first tier houses in the other locations. If you're struggling for cash, it's up to you, but it can be whichever. What the main thing is from this is, of course, in the bottom right here, the trophies. So as you guys can see right now, I'm missing one in Windswood. That's because I took one out. I forgot to put it back in. So maybe I should have done that before this video. But you guys will see that I've got the major weaponsmithing crafting trophies in all of these. These are the best ones possible. I keep those up pretty much 100% of the time because I'm always using those ones. I always like to try and keep my luck trophies up where possible as well, which I do need to upgrade. Of course, they're only minor right now. I'd like to get those up at least a basic. But yeah, those generally stay up most of the time. And then the other ones I kind of switch out. So we've got basic corrupted trophies, we've got the angry earth trophies, and different types of combat ones depending on what I am fighting in terms of mobs. So if I'm, for example, going into Garden of Genesis, or I'm going into the arenas which are angry earth based, then of course I will have these on alongside other things which really, really help me. And then of course if I'm doing an invasion, I can hit up the corrupted trophies. Again, I need to upgrade all of these, but getting these to tier 3 and tier 4 eventually is going to be something you can do. I have got 3 at least of the basics for the corruption ones, but these are really, really helpful in invasions, in corrupted portal runs, in all of the elite zones that have got the corrupted enemies in. So these are really, really important, and if you aren't using these yet, you're sleeping on them, make sure that you get onto that, as that is something really, really good. And if you end game, try and get all of these up to tier 4 to that major level, as that is going to really, really increase. I'm aware some of the drops aren't in the game yet, or they are just from the aptitude containers or whatever, but as many as you can get into tier 4 is going to be really, really good. The next thing here is going to be to make sure that you are using your consumables, and what I mean by this is actually making use of all the different types of things you can get in the game. Obviously, you've got things like your health potions, your mana potions, we all know about those, even regen potions, but you've also got things like your powerful oak flesh balm, which is physical damage types, really, really good in PvP. It only lasts 20 seconds or until you've received damage 15 times, but that 35% damage protection from physical is really, really good. And then you can also switch over to the dust as well, the gemstone dust, and that is going to be elemental damage, again for the same amount if you had the tier 5. This is just a tier 4 version. These are super, super good in PvP. I wouldn't really recommend using them in Outpost Rush unless you're pushing for whatever reason to try and win the match or whatever, but in wars they are certainly worth it, and you're going to be missing out if you're not using these. They can keep you alive when you're diving into enemy backlines. If you're a flank team player, if you're peeling off and loads of people dive onto you, you can use them as defensive thing rather than attacking, and they are super, super useful to keep you alive, to keep the sustain up, and just to support you until your healer can get to you, or a heal can get to you at least on the battlefield. Also, you've got things like your incense. This one increases resistance to all afflictions by 40 for 20 minutes. This is really good in PvP, PvE, whatever you're doing. If you're going to be fighting stuff, you want this on. If you can, it is really, really useful. It keeps things like blight away, it keeps things like corruption away, but it also keeps away poison ticks, slows, stuns, roots, all of that good stuff. And it is only 20 minutes, so if you are in a war or an invasion, you'll need to pop 2 during that time. But it is very, very good, and I would certainly recommend taking advantage of it. You've also then got things like your honing stones here. These increase weapon damage done by 7% for 40 minutes. Now, that doesn't sound like an awful lot, and these are quite expensive to either buy or make, but it can make a huge difference in the overall course of a 30-minute invasion or war match, or in the course of an entire expedition, or if you're going to be doing maybe a few arenas. These are really, really good. Weapon damage as well. Don't forget, for the healers out there, your weapon damage is increased. That means that your light attack heals when you do heal allies with that. That is going to be increased by 7% as well. So again, if you are trying to push for extra heals, trying to keep people alive more, this is really, really good. Really good for obviously DPS and the tanks. You may as well get your extra damage in as well. So it's really good for all players. And then, of course, don't forget to be using things like your regen potions, especially if you do have some amulets or earring jewelry like this, where it says Purifying Toast, which is when you drink a regeneration potion, you lose 1 debuff. This is a really, really good perk, and if you don't have it on your gear, I would certainly recommend trying to roll it. It's a very, very good piece, and of course, when I'm using my dex build, you guys can see there that is a dex piece, but this is really, really good, and every time I drink a regen potion, I get rid of a debuff, so you're certainly going to want to make use of those in tactical ways, as well as just basically using them for the regen purposes as well. Now, the next really important thing you wanted to be doing here is actually going to be to make use of your Gypsum to max out all of your watermarks. Now, you guys will be able to see my armor here, pretty much 590 across the board, which has got the legs and the boots to work on. Boots are 3 points off, legs were 8 points off. Weapons, however, you can see we're at 557. 590 is the maximum, of course, and what I would always recommend doing is getting all of these rolls up to 590 before you start to roll with the 590 pieces. So, for example, for me here, a chest plate or a helmet, in order to try and get some of those legendary or 600 gear score drops with some really good stats and things on. Certainly get everything else up to the watermark threshold first, so that any drops you get from expeditions, from arenas, from outpost rush, from war chests, from whatever you're doing, is actually going to be at that level where they can drop legendaries, they can drop 590 plus gear, which is going to be really, really beneficial, and it might be an upgrade to you, absolutely. And if everything's at that level before you start rolling for potentially that level 600 gear score that you're looking for, it's going to be much more beneficial. So don't waste your Gypsum Orbs. When you do get to that point where you've got them all up to 590, then by all means roll them. But if you're anything like me, it is hidden by the camera right now, but the pesky jewelry, we're at 524 on the necklace, we're at 509 on the ring, and 530 on the earring. So it's slowly getting there, but it is taking me a while. So if you're anything like me, you've probably got a way to go with that. Now, of course, you also want to get your weapons up so they drop. So there's quite a bit to be done before you start wasting them. And I have seen some people trying to roll 590s. It can be worth it, but overall, I would certainly just recommend getting all of your expertise levels up to that top point first. Now, the next one here is going to be using your trade skill Aptitude caches to get your legendary materials. So, for example, let's look at the mining one here. I'm pretty close to the second cache here. When I actually get these caches, I get drops like Cinnabar and Tolvium, and these are a lot more accessible, very easy to do if you just go and do a bit of mining, rather than buying, for example, Cinnabar off the marketplace here, which on my server is 44-ish each. And then if we look at Tolvium as well, it's going to be around the price mark of 30, yeah, 32 there. These are not completely expensive because of how readily available they are, but you can save yourself easily. If you're going to get 10 per day, that's 320. The other one was about 40, so nearly 1,000 gold a day off buying these resources. If you just do 1 or 2 of the Aptitude caches, you will get enough to be able to make your daily crafts. And of course, make sure that you are making the most of your daily crafts. For those of you that don't know what I'm on about here, I will run over to the weaving station real quick and just show you guys. Obviously, you get 10 of your Phoenix weave, 10 of your runic leather, and 10 of your Asmodeum per day, which is these ones here. Make sure you're crafting 10 of those every time. You can save what 19 hours on my cooldown when that comes off, similarly to your Gypsum Orbs, so that you're always getting a stockpile of this, as you are going to need it to re-roll for those max 600 gear score weapons, armors, and good stuff like that. And then, of course, when you've got yourself sorted, you can help your friends, you can make a lot of money, and it's always going to be worth having. So certainly try and run those every day and use your trade skill Aptitude caches in order to get this blister weave and scale cloth. If it really comes down to it, like you can see there, you can use wire fiber 250 and it'll be the same respective tier 5 raw material for whatever you're doing. But on some servers, this can be very expensive, or it can be quite time consuming to go and gather. So whilst you're gathering it to craft up into the infused silk, for example, which you need for Phoenix Weave, then I would certainly recommend just getting the caches, because they will end up giving you at least 10 per day if you're just doing 1 or 2 of the caches, and then you'll be able to craft your full 10 of each of the epic materials per day as well. And finally here, it's going to be maximising your build. Whether you're a PvP player, PvE player, you're always going to want to make sure that if you are at the end game in New World, particularly in 1.2, you are making the most of these brand new perks, and also some of the ability perks that have been in since the start. So when you look at things like Void Bent, you can see here, it's a decent piece. It's got Resilient, it's got Invigorated, it's got Luck, it's got plus 25 con, decent elemental and physical armor ratings. So it's a great sturdy piece, but this should be more of a starting point rather than an end goal solution. So okay, I'm giving you guys this tip. I do need to work on it myself. Obviously still got 2 Void pieces, but what you'll see if I scroll down to maybe my legs here is they're not quite 600, but the 595, they've got Focus Con, which I am doing a Paladin build, so that is perfect for me. And you'll see that they have Leeching Path of Destiny on, which is really, really good. Now, of course, Lost Ward isn't necessarily the best thing to have on, particularly for PvP, and this is actually my war build, so I'm trying to roll some better legs, but having the Leeching Path of Destiny is really, really important. Another example here for this one for me, because I use the hammer and I use the life staff in wars. So when we look at the boots that I'm using here, then we can see that I've got Resilient, which is really, really good, and then also Fortifying Sacred Ground. This is a brilliant roll for me, again with focus and strength. Not quite at that 600 level, so I can obviously upgrade this. There's room for improvement, but it is exactly what I wanted. Fortifying Sacred Ground is crucial for war builds, for PvP in the war, for giving people that fortify buff, as well as, of course, yourself. And that is something, you know, that you can work on. You can get these perks and these ability perks on each piece of your armor, which are going to be beneficial. My gloves, you'll see here, not great for me. The stats are 15 con, brilliant. 10 dex, not great, but you'll see that it has got Revitalizing Beacon. I could swap these out, but it has also got Freedom on, so when I do use Beacon, they're very good. If I steer away from using Beacon, I should obviously swap these. And then weapon-wise, you can see, obviously, I've got Blessed, but I've got Refreshing Divine Embrace, which is really, really good. And then also here, we've got, on the axe, I've got Insatiable Gravity Well, which is really, really good. I use this as more of a utility when I am kind of main healing as the Paladin. But axe is there for utility, so healing off that is super useful. And then Trenchant Rend, which is one of the brand new abilities, and this one is fully charged heavy attacks apply a rend, reducing the target's absorption by 14%. Really, really good if people start to attack me. I can attack them back, do a decent bit of damage, etc. And all of this is made possible with these ability and skill perks, so you certainly want to get those on. You want to make a PvP build, and if you're end game, a separate build for PvP and PvE, which have different things on. So for example, you might have one with Corrupted Bane, as you can see here, which I use this axe for invasions. This is really important to have a different set of stuff, because of course Keen is brilliant, but Corrupted Bane would be terrible in PvP. But for PvE invasions specifically, it is really, really good, and it helps out a lot. I get right up to the top of the leaderboard with this, so it's super, super useful, and I would highly recommend any endgame players working towards this level. Now with that as well, if you are really, really hitting the max endgame potential that you've got, you want to be trying to get legendary pieces in every single slot with the right perks, with the right attributes, and with the right skill perks on for you, and your weapons as well, and all your jewelry. There's a long way to go. It's quite a sturdy path to go down, and it's going to be a lot of work, but when you do get there, if you've got that, then you can work on a separate PvE and PvP set, of course, and then further down the line, when we're seeing these dungeon mutations, which we're supposed to be seeing in a month or so's time, maybe a couple of months, it's been rumoured they're coming out very, very shortly, and those are going to be specific mutations on these expeditions, so things like Corrupted Bane, Angry Earthbane, etc. with PvE sets are going to be super, super useful, so getting ahead of that right now is going to be really, really good. So hopefully you guys have enjoyed this video, found it useful and informative. If you have, please do be sure to leave a like on the video down below, as it really does help support me and my content here on YouTube. If you are new to the channel, like I mentioned at the start of today's video, do please help me out by subscribing and joining the channel community here. We would love to have you. And other than that, guys, as always, thank you very much for your time, thank you for watching, and I will catch you tomorrow with another upload. Take care, guys, and peace.